Welcome to another presentation on Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Sri Madhurya Kadambini, the Monsoon Clouds of Sweetness. We continue in this presentation with a discussion of the obstacles to Niṣṭhā. Visvanatha Cakravarti writes in his fourth cloud bank, of the 5 obstacles to Niṣṭhā, increasingly oppressive drowsiness while chanting, more while hearing, and even more while remembering is called laya. Reminiscing about various topics related to mundane life at the time of hearing, chanting, or remembering is called viksapa. Even in the absence of laya and viksapa, sometimes we may still find that we are simply unable to properly hear, chant, or remember. This obstacle is known as a pratipatti. The various impressions of anger, greed, and false ego that manifest while performing sadhana of the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing, chanting, or remembering, is called kasaya. The inability to absorb the mind in the angas of bhakti, such as kirtan, when the opportunity for material sense pleasure arises, is known as rasasvada. Additional commentary. It is by these symptoms that the sadhakas can ascertain for themselves whether or not they have entered Niṣṭhā bhakti. Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura is here speaking about some self-evaluation of our own position in our practice of sadhana bhakti, which can be evaluated by observation of ourselves in relationship to these 5 obstacles. Visvanatha continues, at this point one may ask, can the remaining anarthas, those that have not been completely eradicated, cause obstacles in bhakti even after attaining the stage of Niṣṭhā bhakti? Srimad Bhagavatam has been quoted to address this doubt. Upon the awakening of unflinching determination in bhakti, Niṣṭhā bhakti, the emotions that arise due to the material modes of passion and ignorance, as well as lust, greed, and so on, no longer penetrate the heart of the devotee. Thus his heart, being situated in Suddha-sattva, pure transcendence, obtains complete happiness. In this verse, we should understand by the conjunctive use of the word cha, which is used in the sense of the total aggregation of the previous items, that all of these worldly emotions, such as those in the modes of passion and ignorance, still exist at the stage of Niṣṭhā. But the verse also states that the consciousness of the devotee remains more or less undisturbed or untouched. This statement establishes that as long as the stage of bhava has not been attained, these worldly emotions essentially exist, but in a benign form and not as impediments to bhakti. Some additional commentary. Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Sarartha Darsini commentary to this Bhagavatam verse. This means that prior to the awakening of Niṣṭhā in bhajan, the heart of the sadhaka is pierced by the sharp arrows of lust, greed, and so forth. So how can it feel joy? How will the sadhaka be capable of thoroughly tasting the nectar of hearing, chanting, and remembering? A person being torn apart by arrows will never be entirely able to relish his meal. Visvanatha continues, Niṣṭhā directly in bhakti herself, and Niṣṭhā in what is favorable to bhakti. Niṣṭhā, fixed determination, is also of 2 types. 1. Resting in bhakti herself, saksad bhakti vartini, that is, to rest in the 9 limbs of bhakti, such as Shravana and Kirtana. And 2. Resting in that which is favorable to bhakti, tad anukula vastu vartini, that is, related to favorable qualities required to directly practice the limbs of bhakti. Although saksad bhakti vartini Niṣṭhā is of many types, there are 3 main divisions: kaiki, performed by the body; vachiki, performed by speech; and manasi, performed within the mind. Some people are of the opinion that a sadhaka first develops Niṣṭhā in bhakti performed with the body, then in bhakti performed by speech, and finally in bhakti performed within the mind. However, devotees develop a greater inclination toward Bhagavan in either kaiki bhakti, vachiki bhakti, or manasi bhakti, according to their varying degrees of endurance in relation to the body, brilliance in relation to the faculty of speech, or power in relation to the mind. This is due to the impact of their various previous experiences, samskaras. Thus, some say that there is no fixed sequence in regards to these 3 divisions. Qualities such as not desiring respect from others, yet always offering others respect, friendship, and compassion are favorable for bhakti. Niṣṭhā in such qualities is called tad anukula vastu vartini. Additional commentary: saksad bhakti vasayani Niṣṭhā, fixed determination related directly to bhakti herself. This Niṣṭhā is of 3 types: related to the body, related to speech, and related to the mind. Kaiki Niṣṭhā, fixed determination related to the body. Resolve in performing activities such as hearing Krishna Katha, serving the Tulsi tree, making flower garlands for Krishna, worshiping the deity, and circumambulating the deity or a holy place. Vaichiki Niṣṭhā, resolve in performing activities such as kirtan of the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Bhagavan, offering prayers and eulogy, revealing one's mind through prayerful entreaty, and glorifying Bhagavan and reciting narrations about him. Manasi Niṣṭhā, resolve in contemplating and remembering the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Sri Bhagavan constitutes Manasi Niṣṭhā. Unflinching faith or steadiness in these angas of bhakti is to have fixed determination related directly to bhakti herself. In his commentary on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Jiva Goswami has written, "When someone's bhajan is uninterrupted and devoid of any distraction, it is called Niṣṭhā." Some commentary: some people are of the opinion that Niṣṭhā first awakens in bhakti performed with one's body, vaichiki, then in bhakti performed through one's faculty of speech, and finally in bhakti performed with one's mind. But this is not the sequence every sadhaka passes through. According to each sadhaka's previous impressions, we find that he will have varying degrees of endurance, brilliance, and power. Some sadhakas have more mental power than physical endurance or brilliant faculty of speech. So it is not so astonishing that they will first attain steadiness in bhakti performed with their mind. That is why it can be said that there is no fixed sequence in the attainment of these 3 forms of Niṣṭhā. Tad anukula vastu vartini, fixed determination related to qualities that are favorable to bhakti. Qualities such as offering respect to others, sympathy, compassion, forgiveness, gratefulness, and so forth are favorable for bhakti. Offering respect and never demanding respect helps nourish humility, the elixir that gives life to one's bhakti. Compassion for every living entity, friendship, and a mood of kindness are qualities by which bhakti becomes free from obstacles. For those who cannot forgive the faults of others, praying to God for forgiveness is nothing but imitation. The quality of gratitude, kritajnata, is especially favorable for bhakti, for Bhakti Devi does not appear in an ungrateful heart. Sri Bhagavan himself is thoroughly imbued with the quality of gratitude. To whatever extent a person has become truly elevated, gratitude will be found residing in his heart. Bhakti Devi will never appear in a small-hearted person devoid of gratitude. Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura continues, sometimes we see that a self-controlled devotee lacks niṣṭhā in bhakti, but has niṣṭhā in such qualities as not desiring respect and always offering it. Inversely, we may also observe that a devotee with an arrogant nature has niṣṭhā in bhakti, but not in such qualities. It appears to be a valid inference to many, not only to those with immature intelligence, but even to learned persons, that the presence of these favorable qualities signifies niṣṭhā in bhakti, and that their absence signifies a lack of niṣṭhā in bhakti. It is possible within the heart of a self-controlled sadhaka we may find that all these good qualities are present despite the absence of niṣṭhā in bhakti. In other words, such qualities may be evident in some self-controlled devotees who are still at the stage of unsteady devotion, unsteady bhakti. And conversely, we may find a sadhaka with an exalted nature in whom niṣṭhā has already arisen, but who does not exhibit any of these qualities. Therefore, there is no certainty that these auspicious qualities will awaken whenever niṣṭhā is manifest. The opinion that the presence of all these good qualities is an indication that niṣṭhā has been awakened, and that the absence of them is an indication that it is not, may be adopted not only by those who are ignorant of Shastra, but even by those who are wise and conversant with Shastra. And this is understandable, given that Srimad Bhagavatam states that it is only when Niṣṭhā bhakti awakens within the devotee's heart that he will no longer be hindered by passion and ignorance, or by lust, greed, and the like. Thus situated in Suddha Sattva, he will achieve true happiness. Intense enthusiasm to perform the limbs of bhakti, such as hearing and chanting, is the actual benchmark of steadiness, niṣṭhā, in bhakti. And laxity in performing the limbs of bhakti is the benchmark of unsteadiness, aniṣṭhā, in bhakti. This is but a summary of the deliberation on the subject of bhakti niṣṭhā. Bhaktir bhavati niṣṭhā tada rajas tamo bhava kama lobha dayaschaye cheta etar anavridam stitam sattve prasidati. When Niṣṭhā bhakti manifests within the heart, it can no longer be affected by the modes of passion and ignorance, nor by their effects, such as lust and greed. Thus, becoming situated in Suddha Sattva, one's heart attains true happiness. Although the previously mentioned qualities are favorable for niṣṭhā in bhakti, they are not required. Rather, the intensity or apathy of one's shravanam, kirtanam, etc. is the true determination of whether one is practicing Niṣṭhā bhakti or aniṣṭhā bhakti. Intense endeavor in shravanam and kirtana indicates firm steadiness in bhakti. Thus ends the fourth shower of nectar. We can see here that Visvanatha and the commentators have taken great pains to let us know that the external characteristics of a devotee may not always be the true indicator of their steadiness or lack thereof in their practice of bhakti. Rather, the intensity of their endeavor to hear and chant is the true measure of attainment of the stage of Niṣṭhā, or steadiness in devotional practice. Glorious devotees, I thank you so much for viewing this presentation on Sri Visvanatha Cakravarti Ṭhakura's Sri Madhurya Kadambini, and hope that it has nourished your spiritual understanding. Hare Krishna.